So it's important that you actually track all the information and the properties that you're completing on at all times to make sure that one, you have a record of this information, but two, much more importantly, that when the time comes that you need to refer back to it, you have the information readily at hand. Now, a way that people often do it is they just leave it in their inbox and they completely forget about it. And, we've been involved in the transactions of well in excess of 200 properties over the past few years. Us personally having bought tens of properties ourselves within a 3-year period, including some large commercial developments as well as some smaller basic buy-to-lets, HMOs, flips, etc. And it's really interesting because as soon as you pass sort of 10, 11, 12 properties, it's very easy to become complacent with the information you have of those properties. So you'll complete on a house, you'll forgot how much you completed for, or you'll forgot the date that you completed on, which is the big one. People always forget the completion date. You won't track information in terms of the completion statements, which will basically hold how much deposit you've paid and therefore be something that's useful for your accountant. Also missing things like who the agent was that you completed through. So basically missing a whole bunch of information that puts you in a very awkward spot later down the line. So when it comes to any purchase that you partake in, as soon as you have the opportunity or the deal agreed, my suggestion is start to track them on a spreadsheet and have it as one single spreadsheet in one single place that you will always be able to find very simply. I love to do everything in the cloud, so typically what we do is we do everything through Dropbox, but obviously there's a whole variety of different places in which you can go to be able to store the information, whether that's on Google Drive, Google Sheets, or wherever, but you want it to be somewhere that it is backed up and easily savable. So first and foremost, you have the spreadsheet, and the things that you need to be collecting is firstly is the address of the property, the entire address. Okay, things like the date you got the offer accepted, the amount that you got the deal agreed at, refurbishment costings, that's always a really big one, so refurbishment quotes. You also want to be tracking completion dates, so the dates that you complete on. Insurance information, so who your insurer is. It's another one that tends to get slipped up or missed out. Any sort of utilities information that you want to be tracking. You also want to be tracking the deposit amount. You also want to be storing things like your completion statements and estate agents that you're dealing with, and so on and so forth. So you've got a whole array of information that you need to be tracking for each individual property that you get. Now, it's important that you track this information. If you do not, I can guarantee you'll come unstuck in the same way that we did and in the same way that a lot of property investors do. Later down the line, when it comes to filing your taxes, the accountant will say, okay, brilliant, can you give me your completion statements? Now, your completion statement is basically the piece of information your solicitor gives you that tells you all of the money needed for the deal. So that'll be your stamp duty, that'll be the amount of money coming from the lender, the legal fees, any other finance fees that are included within that, the deposit amount you have to pay. So basically the amount you need to physically pay to be able to complete on that purchase. The completion statement tends to be one of those things that just kind of disappears into the ether in your inbox and then completely gets forgotten about. It is extremely important you track that information, and it's also important you have the information for insurance purposes when they say, when did you complete on the property? And you're like, it was sometime mid last year. And things like that. You really need to make sure you have this information at hand, which is why I suggest, for sure, make sure you're tracking all of the information on the property and all of the core information we've covered here, and anything else that you think is useful or relevant, things like structural surveys, builder's quotes, etc. This will really help you out in the future, and I highly recommend you do this.